Minecraft Sky Dimension, the world of floating islands that never fully made it into the game, later becoming what we now know as the End Dimension. Back in the earliest versions of Minecraft's development, a map type called floating was found in Minecraft's in-depth version. This floating map generated islands far above the surface made of terrain similar to that of the overworld. In 2009, Notch would tweet a photo of these floating islands, teasing a new dimension in a future release. Notch initially intended for the dimension to serve almost as a form of heaven for Minecraft, also being a counterpart to the Nether, which contains many traits resembling hell. Not much later, Notch put an end to people's speculations, confirming the Sky Dimension in a later tweet. This tweet stated, "And because PC Gamer made such a big deal of the Sky Dimension, I guess I'll have to finish it. Consider it confirmed." With the dimension confirmed, the question then switched from what it was to what will it contain. Well, Notch further explained what Minecraft Sky Dimension would be like in a live webcast, revealing it would be a form of dream world players would be able to visit when they slept. Players would have a random chance at being transported there, and over time, Notch mentioned there would be a way for players to unlock the ability to purposely enter this dream world. The concept was super exciting, but Notch had stated it wasn't fully fleshed out yet, and he wanted to focus on improvements to the Nether before releasing an entire new dimension, so players would just have to be patient and wait for its release. When development for the Sky Dimension was continued, a key developer of Minecraft who most of you probably already know, Jeb, discovered issues with the lighting of the dimension. In the dimension's earliest forms, it used a top-down lighting system similar to the overworld, causing extreme performance issues. As a fix to this, they decided to remove the sun entirely and have the dimension be evenly lit. The next time this said Sky Dimension was mentioned, Jeb stated that the dimension had been rebranded to the End, a dimension we all know as a dark and hostile realm, serving as the home of Endermen and the game's final boss, the Ender Dragon. What had started as an idea of a peaceful dream world was now reimagined as a hostile, eerie dimension, serving as a milestone to represent the official end of the game. But even though the Sky Dimension was scrapped, Notch didn't completely abandon the idea. Later he mentioned a different dimension which he called the Skylands. This new dimension was supposed to be a separate sky-based world unrelated to the End and potentially designed to replace the original Sky Dimension. However, as Jeb later confirmed, Skylands were never planned to return, and it seemed like the idea was officially shelved for good. For many years, the Sky Dimension was relegated to Minecraft's past, but between Java Edition 1.13 and 1.17, players had a chance to partially recreate it through the Buffet world type. By choosing floating islands, world generation option, and selecting any overworld biome like forest, plains, or jungle, player could experience a world filled with floating islands, much like the original Sky Dimension. But alas, the floating islands world type was removed in Minecraft 1.18, and with it, one of the last ways to experience this early version of the high sky world. Even though Minecraft's own Sky Dimension was shelved, another sky world lived on in the community. In 2011, the Aether mod was released by King B Dogs. The Aether was a custom Sky Dimension, but instead of being a peaceful heaven, it was full of floating islands, dungeons, and strange new mobs like Zephyrus and flying pigs. This dimension could be visited by making the structure of another portal out of glowstone and igniting the portal with a bucket of water. This mod was so vastly popular that many people thought it was in the base game, leading to many failed attempts at creating one of these glowstone portals. To this day, it still serves as one of the best regarded mods of all time, with many players wishing it would be added to the official game. Mojang themselves even took notice of how well made this mod was, and in 2014, King B Dogs joined Mojang, bringing their expertise in sky-based worlds to the development of Minecraft. While the Aether mod itself wasn't fully integrated into Minecraft, its legacy lived on in the game's approach to exploration and dimension building. King B Dogs is now responsible for developing features like the Deep Dark and the Warden, two of the most unique and interesting features to be introduced to the game in recent years. If we ever are given a new dimension or receive an update to the game's end dimension, King B Dogs is likely to play a vital role in designing the update, and may even lead the development process of the update, as he has some of the most experience developing features for new dimensions. Now, believe it or not, even though this mod pack has been out for basically an eternity, I have never actually tried it myself. I've always wanted to play this mod pack, so I decided that now may be the perfect time for me to try it out myself. While I've seen many videos on it in the past, I don't really know what's inside. What I am aware of is there are 3 main dungeons, being bronze, silver, and gold. Since this is my first time playing, my goal is to at least beat the bronze dungeon. So that's what I'm gonna do. When I spawned in the world, the first thing you have to do is get the materials to actually make the Aether portal, which involves getting glowstone, which means I have to go to the Nether. So the first few hours of me playing was basically me just collecting woods and resources to actually get to the Nether so I could get the materials to get to the Aether. But before I got any of those materials, I would simply have to get the tools required to actually get obsidian, so I spent a little bit of time exploring exploring some caves to just go from stone tools to iron tools and eventually find enough diamonds to make a diamond pick. While looking for diamonds, I fortunately found enough iron to craft a full set of iron armor and tools, which I thought would be pretty necessary because I don't really know how dangerous this Aether is going to be, so I might as well be prepared. Then after a bit of searching and caving, I was finally able to come across some diamonds to make that diamond pick I needed. I then gathered the obsidian needed for the portal, made the nether portal, and then I quickly hopped in, and I got lucky enough that at the spawn in the nether, I was right next to a big patch of glowstone, and there was enough there to make more than one Aether portal, so I quickly grabbed all the glowstone I needed and just dipped out, because I was not trying to spend more time in the nether than I had to. Now that I had the glowstone to make the Aether portal, I made my way back up to the surface, and I had to get a bucket of water, and then I would be ready to go. Now that I finally had all the materials, I quickly put together the Aether portal, and I hopped in for the first time. Since I have never played the Aether mod before, I was super excited to see what was on the other side of this portal. And finally, after years of failed Aether portal attempts and countless YouTube videos watched, I was finally in the Aether for the first time, and I have to say, it did not disappoint. The Aether is absolutely jaw-dropping. The generation, the biome, and overall the whole color scheme is genuinely beautiful. Now the goal of beating the bronze dungeon was set forth. So basically I spent my first few minutes kind of just exploring and getting really confused by a lot of the mobs. As you can see, I got picked up by a giant blue slime, which caught me really off guard. Also, I find it really cool that this whole dimension follows a Greek tone with giving the pigs and cows Greek wings. Super cool. I even stumbled across this giant flying whale, which I have no idea what this does or if you can ride it, but it was super jaw-dropping. I then just continued to walk around and kind of look at the different mobs, and to my surprise, I got shot by some form of wind gust and I got sent off this cliff. One of the things I do know from a past video though is that these blue slime blocks I found allow you to literally get launched into the sky, so I used that to get myself back up and continued to kill every mob in sight, seeing if they would drop anything. Unfortunately, these birds did not. I then stumbled across what was shooting those wind balls at me, and they looked like those giant clouds from Mario, so I tried to fight them, but I had absolutely no way of reaching them, so I kind of just ran away. Now, although my main goal for this little let's play here is to beat the bronze dungeon, I thought I might as well get some form of base or house in the Aether, just in case I die, and somewhere to keep all the loot and stuff I find. So any interesting resources I saw, I would gather just in case for when the time comes to build a little base. I then ran into another one of those cloud things while I was chopping down this tree, and this one happened to be way lower to the ground, so I ended up killing it. I didn't see what it dropped though, because its drop fell into the void. I then stumbled across this wind looking thing, and it did that. So yeah, eventually though I was able to get my stuff back, but I'm not going to show you all that because it's kind of boring, and I continued my little exploration, and I ran into these exploding looking Christmas presents and this little flower that shoots poison darts at you. All the nice looking things in this dimension seem to want to kill you. I mean, those blocks literally look like Christmas gifts. Alright, I've done enough yapping, and you guys have seen me explore for like the past 2 minutes, so basically, in short terms, I spent the next hour looking for a good spot to build a little house to hunker down in, and this is what I found. So now I just have a little time lapse of me collecting resources and gathering what I need to build my house, and then actually building my house. So enjoy. I'll leave a timestamp on screen if you want to skip to when I'm back to yapping. On the way back from collecting the materials I needed to make windows, I found this little egg on the ground, and I think it was from one of these black birds. So I looked it up, and it turns out if you craft an incubator, you can turn this into a pet bird of your own and use it to fly around the Aether. So that's what I'm gonna do. In the meantime, I'm just gonna fill in my windows and add a little interior to my house. It's very simple, but it gets the job done. For my house finished, I put the egg in the incubator, but I forgot to record that, so my bad. But I basically just went around killing more mobs and just kind of fooling around until it was done incubating and the bird was fully grown up. When they were, I actually got 2 eggs, and they came out in these baby versions, so I also had to wait for them to turn into adults. When they finally did, I equipped one with a saddle because you can actually craft saddles in this mod, which is a really nice addition. And with this bird, I was fully geared out basically, and I was ready to go take on the bronze dungeon. This bird is really awesome, by the way. You can literally jump like up to 6 times and then it glides down. Very useful, especially for this biome for getting around, and it's honestly like an elytra, but even better without the fireworks. So now Now, the goal was to find the bronze dungeon. I knew the bronze dungeon wasn't going to be super hard to find because it was one of the more prominent ones, since it was the first dungeon that most people take on. The only thing is though, is that it's usually found in the side of the islands as like almost a cave dungeon, so it's not as easy to spot as say the silver dungeon, which is just an island. Now, finally, after a little bit of searching, I was able to find the bronze dungeon on the side of this island here. I landed inside and I quickly boarded it up so my bird wouldn't fly away. With the exit safely boarded up, I was finally able to enter the dungeon. And I gotta say, it's a pretty simple dungeon, but it gets the job done. It's actually really cool and a very simple version of what we now have as like the trial chambers. There's not a crazy amount of stuff going on. It's kind of just rooms with a chest, but I also do know that the other two dungeons that come after this are way more difficult. So I just spent a little bit of time collecting loot until I eventually got jump scared by this chest that turned into a mob. This deadass scared the shit out of me because I was not expecting this chest to turn into a monster at all, bro, and I actually jump scared. Like, I took my hand off the mouse for a sec. It's not even like it's scary, it just caught me by surprise like crazy. But it wasn't really a challenge, so I quickly took it out, and with all the chests looted, I decided to finally go take on the boss, which from first glance looked like just a big cube with an eye. So I basically just approached the cube and hit it a few times, but it turns out that in order to actually fight it, it can only be damaged with a pickaxe. Luckily, one of the chests in the dungeon gave me a decent rarity pickaxe to use, so I was able to actually fight it. Basically though, as soon as the boss fight started, the boss couldn't actually move diagonally, so it was pretty easily avoided, although I did get slapped around a little bit, but overall it was a pretty simple boss fight. I kind of just ran around, healed a bit, and then hit it with my pickaxe, and then whenever it would move towards me, I would move in between the two horizontal spaces it could go, although sometimes it did decide to float up by a few blocks, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna slam down on me or what its deal was, but it never got close enough to hit me with that move, so we were good. And then after a couple minutes, it turned red, going into a second but faster phase, but it really wasn't that bad, and then I was able to finally take it out. The goal was done. The bronze dungeon of the Aether had been completed. With defeating the boss, it dropped a key which you were able to use to open up this little chest, and inside was a variety of unique loot, including a cape, a unique helmet, and a bunch of different weapons I could use. So with this loot, I decided to take my bird, leave the dungeon, and before I decided to log off, I wanted to try out these weapons and see what they did, and I ended up stumbling upon another one of these dungeons actually, so I put the weapons to the test there, and it turns out one of them was like a flaming sword, which was pretty cool, and then the other one was a little dagger, which basically just served as a normal sword for your normal attack, but if you decided to right click, you could throw it at them, and the mob would be struck by lightning when hit. This loot was actually pretty cool, and made that dungeon feel worthwhile going to, and yeah. And with that, the goal was completed, so I just basically tested my one question I had, which is if jumping out of the Aether would lead you to fall to your death in the overworld, or if you'd be immune to fall damage. So I jumped off the island and fell, and yeah, so you die. Well, that's the Aether mod, and I gotta say, I'm actually quite impressed with this dimension. I honestly wish that a version of this mod could be officially introduced to the base game, as it's got a lot of great content and ideas behind it all. All it needs is a few tweaks to balance it with the vanilla game, and I think it would be a perfect fit. This was my first time making a sort of let's play style video where I actually play the content myself, so let me know what you thought of this down below, and if you'd like to see more versions of this, like me taking on the Better End mod or the Deep Dark Dimension mod, because I'm definitely curious to see what you guys think. Would you guys like to see a more simplistic version of seeing me actually play the game, or do you like how I did a sort of storytelling form where I used the replay mod to gather footage of my little playthrough? Leave any feedback you have down below because it definitely helps out a lot, and I'm very curious to see what you guys think. That's the history of Minecraft Sky Dimension. What do you think about this dimension? Do you wish it would have been introduced in its original form? Do you want to see it added now, or would you rather Mojang just develop a new dimension in its entirety? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave any ideas you have down in the comments below. Just a reminder, liking this video would help me out quite a bit, and subscribing, make sure you never miss out on another video just like this one. It's also completely free and really does help me out more than you could possibly imagine. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.